Hello, everyone. Welcome back to VOD of Consciousness, or welcome to it for the first time. I'm Sientir, and I'm doing an exploration of the guild halls. But first, check out my Patreon at patreon.com/Sientir. Your financial support is greatly appreciated and lets me do cool stuff, like get paid for doing content. So I'm going through just looking at all of the guild halls, and last time we went through all of the Prophecies guild halls, so the ones that came out in the original game. But this time, we're going to go ahead and start looking at some of the other ones. So this episode, we're just going to look through the other guild halls. This one is, as you might be able to tell, based upon the Echovold Forest area of the Kurzik territory in Guild Wars Factions. We're just going to kind of take a bit of a gander through it. I'm going to turn off my HUD, because who needs that business? I love some of these visual aesthetics. The huge canopy overhead. I would love to be able to work on an updated HD version of this game. I wouldn't be doing the art or anything, but I'd love to do some of the gameplay design. Some cool statuaries in kind of a garden area with this whole thing. That's Warrior Kurzik armor. Let's see. I don't know if we can actually get in there. No, I'm curious. No, it doesn't look like. Maybe. No. Can't actually get in there. It's completely enclosed. That's okay. These mushrooms, by the way, have some dust spores that when you walk in them give you some negative status ailments. That's not very good to have. Pretty nasty. And it doesn't come off. It's an environmental hazard, so it doesn't get removed like other conditions. One of the things that I love about the Echovold Forest from a design standpoint is that it has lots of grays and then extremely vibrant green. Like all of the grass stuff, the molds mosses and other stuff that is growing in the area are super, super saturated. But there's lots of grays and kind of deep blues and stuff, so it makes for a very interesting visual contrast, which is something that I quite enjoy. Combined along with the stained glass stuff going on and things like that, I find it to be really cool. So the next one is going to be the Isle of Meditation. So if I remember correctly, this one's going to be based off of, this one's based off of the starting area for factions, which has a very simple sort of aesthetic feel to it. The idea is that it's kind of a monastery off on its own island. Xingzhe Monastery, kind of off, secluded. And there's some really neat-looking plants and stuff there. A lot of this Japanese-inspired imagery, or at least I think of as Japanese-inspired, with kind of this structure that kind of makes me think of the Shinto gates. I don't think that's the proper term for them. Unfortunately, I don't know the proper term off the top of my head. Torii gates. Torii. Torii. But it reminds me of those with the vibrant wood. I do like the bright colors. It has a very different feel from pre-searing, though. It's much cooler in terms of the coloration. I think it's interesting. But I do love this type of architecture with this type of roof, with kind of the sloped roof and that sort of thing. I really like that sort of traditional architectural style. I find it very visually appealing. Don't know my way around this guild hall super well. It's interesting, though. Xingzhe never hit with me the same way Pre-Searing Ascalon did, which has an overall warmer aesthetic, just from a visual palette standpoint. But also has... So the Imperial Isle, by the way, this is the one that I'm thinking of switching to. There was a guild that I was in that had this for a while, or a guild that I was in for a while that had this one. I love this this tile work and the glowing things and the reds and golds and stuff. I think it's very, very pretty, with some of this natural stuff growing into, and the cherry blossoms, of course. But anyway, I've completely lost track of some of what my thoughts were. Ooh, these banners are a gorgeous color. Purple, a sort of a deep royal purple, is my favorite color, and that's that sort of purple right there in that banner work. Those glowy things are teleports. So I really enjoyed the aesthetic of this area. So anyway, this guild hall is super nostalgic for me because I was in a guild that used it for a while. So I quite enjoy it. Also, this bridge is a lot more solid than one that we saw last episode, which was basically some very fancy metalwork spanning a distance. This is a gate that would close down and block this area off, I think. So, anyway, I love just walking through some of these guild halls and just looking at sort of the visual aesthetics that ArenaNet came up with for these games. You can see some of the other higher end, like middle end architecture. There's a lot of time spent in slums in Kaining City, which is unfortunate, but okay. And then the last one here for Cantha is the Isle of Jade. This one's going to be based off the Jade Sea, which I love the aesthetic of. Basically, it's an ocean getting turned into jade, and so what you see is a combination of sort of natural wave structure, sort of a nomadic aesthetic with hills and stuff rising up, but then one of the big things that you see is a lot of mining. They did a lot of sort of this mining sort of thing, where they've carved out the sides and they mined out a couple of different things. Jade for just general usage. It's a plentiful resource for them when the entire ocean is made out of jade. But you get these cool things like these frozen breakers and stuff like that. That creates for a very stunning visual style, and creates a really interesting sense for how the place is. But one of the other things that they get too is in certain spots you'll find just these blocks of... oh, I wonder if these actually hurt. No. These hurt right now. So this stuff is spiked coil. It slows you down and deals damage to you when you walk through it. Not a big deal, but these are little teleporters as well. But they would find sea monsters and stuff inside the jade, fish, stuff like that. So I haven't spent a whole lot of time in these Luxon areas because, just to put it bluntly, I've always played as Kurzik, and the game disincentivizes you from switching back and forth pretty strongly. So while I like the aesthetic of the Luxon areas, I just haven't really spent as much time in there as I have the Kurzik ones, which is an unfortunate consequence of some of the design decisions that they made. But let's go ahead and go to the Uncharted Isle. I'm not sure. Okay, yeah, this is going to be Istan, which is the tutorial area for Nightfall. Now, Nightfall is based off of Africa in terms of the location, the aesthetic, and that sort of thing. So this is where the sun spears start off. So you start off kind of as a sun spear, and just different things that way. This area is very flooded and like this through much of it. So there's several different sections. It's unfair to say it's just Africa. There's also kind of a Middle East Persian inspiration in different areas as well. But I don't know exactly what part this is inspired by. Obviously, some of the parts of Africa that are not the Sahara Desert, which are plentiful. It turns out Africa is enormous, and it's an unfortunate tendency we have for people like me who are not African to think of it as a much smaller place than it really is. So let's see, what's the next one? We did Jade. Okay, Corrupted Isle. Okay, this one is based off of the Torment Realm version of Korna. So the Realm of Torment is basically the Guild Wars version of Tartarus. So you see a lot of horrific body horror imagery, like these jaw lines. I don't know whose teeth they took pictures of to make those, but yikes. There's a lot of this sort of purple lighting, very unsettling, toothy, fleshy imagery, purples and greens and stuff, kind of used to make things kind of unsettling. Man, and it is. So, very creepy area. Hence why it's called the Corrupted Isle, I guess. But you can kind of see the edge of the corruption. There's all of these torment rifts and stuff. One of these days, I'm going to do a run through the Tomb of the Primeval Kings, which is afflicted by some of this same torment. In the lore of the game, there was the previous god of death, Doom, D-H-U-U-M. That's 2 U's. Not to be confused with W. It's a different letter entirely. Thanks, English. But anyway, as I was saying, the Tomb of the Primeval Kings got invaded by that. Abaddon actually is... Doom was the previous god of death. Abaddon was the secret god, and he was the one who, I forget the exact lore of what invaded where, but anyway, things got screwed up is the basic point. So Isle of Worms is based on the Desolation. So Corrupted Isle is kind of Korna. Korna gets corrupted in certain versions. This area is based on the Desolation, which is where there's some horrible wars and everything got made horrendously unlivable, and there's all these like golden sand areas that you need to climb inside giant worms to get about in, because it's horrendous corruption and stuff, and that's the giant worms can survive, and you temporarily control a gigantic worm, which is cool. But it's right next to the Crystal Desert, and there's actually a spot where you can cross over from the Desolation area into the Crystal Desert in Guild Wars 1. So I might show you just on the map what that location is after we look at the last guild hall. I think I'm going through these a little bit more quickly than I did the first batch. A lot of these sort of pillars, you can see that sort of thing in some locations in the real world, and they're kind of creepy. But in the story, Abaddon is a god that was trapped in Tartarus and corrupted the main villains of the first 2 games, and tries to break free, and you have to defeat him and whatnot. And then Cormier ascends to replace him. I guess that's story spoilers, but this game came out in like 06, I think. 06, maybe 07. So I'm just saying it's over a decade old. I think the statute of limitations on spoilers is probably expired by then. But anyway, so this area has a little bit of crossover with some of the Crystal Desert aesthetics, but it's just like where they came from, as it were. And then we have the last one, the Isle of Solitude. And this is the one based on Vabi, which has a very strong Persian aesthetic. So you can see this is the guild hall that I have right now. It's got these golden domes, these sort of hanging Garden of Babylon type things, floating stuff there. So this one has more of a Middle Eastern feel, and sort of a lot of rich visuals, very sort of blue and brown, rich turquoise colors, with sort of these browns and greens and stuff of the surrounding area, and the lighter sort of grayish browns of the stonework. It's a neat aesthetic, though, and I enjoy how diverse this game is overall, the full Guild Wars experience in terms of the different aesthetics. It's an interesting... I've seen patterns like that before in real life, so it's not like it's unusual or anything, but it's just interesting seeing it there. There's some magic carpet bridges in some spots of Vabi? I don't know. VABBI. But then this would be the away team's location. So like I said, I'm thinking of moving over to the Imperial Isle because it has more resonance for me. I just think the aesthetic of some of this area is really cool. But, you know, whatever. So yeah, that's just kind of a quick tour of the guild halls. Let's turn my HUD back on. Yes. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm gonna go to Embark Beach actually, so I want to show you kind of that that location. So if I go from here, actually, so gold rewards, I can get a celestial sigil for 3 gold coins. So actually, if I go over this way, I'm really curious to know how much the celestial sigil trades for. So we have a moment anyway. So if I go over here, I can go to the silver rewards, and I should be able to acquire for myself. Let's see. I need to pull out 30 of these. So, 3 gold coins. Goodbye. And then from you, I can get a celestial sigil. Cool. So this can be used to purchase a guild hall. We're not going to do that right this moment, but I wanted to... Oh, right. Interesting. I wanted to acquire it. They reprised that in... I don't remember what all costumes I even have. I should look through them at some point in time. So we're going to go ahead and start by... We're actually going to go to the Ring of Fire Island chain because it has an 8-person party area and Crystal Desert does not. But over here, is it Ultra Drifts? Scar? I think it's in this general area. There's a zone, and that zone has like a statue that you can see in the distance in another zone. So if we go... oh, whatever. We're just going to come down Jewel of Easton and lose half our party. Whatever. Whatever. We'll deal with it. So if we look up here in the Desolation, right up here is the Crystal Desert. So actually, there's a spot, I think it's over here somewhere, where you can actually look over and see that statue, and you can go to it. So I think that's really cool. Hamadan is like the place where people hang out. I'm going to go in the Sundocks. Oh, somebody has a Shiotagachi visual thingy. I'm going to go ahead and run over here to the Sundocks, and this is just a zone that they have to do random questy stuff in. And I'm going to go ahead and wave farewell. So, until next time, everyone, take care. Bye-bye.